Here we have, well, yeah, a lot of people would consider this like the premier Marx set of its time. It's got the always well-known 333. This one here is actually equipped with a smoke unit. It doesn't work on mine, though. I haven't really dug into it to figure out what's going on with it, but die-cast tender, and then the three Marx streamlined cars. I'll tell you what I always liked a lot about the Marx passenger cars over the Lionels, actually, was that they put the little strips in there, which those are translucent. They light up, light comes through. But what I always liked about them was that they actually put little people on there, actual like little paintings or however you want to call it. Instead of just little black silhouettes. Lionel did. It always seems a little more personal. The stories I've heard is that some of the folks represented on these little pictures are actually employees or friends of the company or Louis Marx, things like that. I'm not sure they're really true or not, but something like this, chances are it probably was people like that. Where else would you get inspiration for that? But yeah, we'll give this a little bit of a run around. That observation car, I don't know what its deal is. Sometimes it lights up, sometimes it doesn't. It's got a mind of its own. But yeah, let's go back over here. Alright, and let's get her fired up. Yeah, these Marx trains are pretty bulletproof. They just will run forever. And this is definitely a very gorgeous set, and definitely a popular one, I think, for a lot of folks. I figured we got a little bit better light here. Kind of do a little pass by of the set. And something I kind of wanted to point out that I forgot to do, that something I doubt a lot of people ever really notice. I've set up some Lionel passenger cars back there to kind of show this. But you see the rather large gap between them, especially on a curve there. And something that I always thought was real nice was the way Marx designed their passenger cars. These actually kind of fit pretty snug together, even up to the tender, actually, which kind of helps them look nice, makes it look nice and streamlined, kind of helps that prototypical look. Just some kind of interesting Marx did with their trains that for some reason Lionel didn't really catch on to at the time. Which obviously these are post-war, that's pre-war, but still just kind of an interesting little notable thing to mention. And then a little slow pass by on the locomotive here. These 333s are really extraordinary. K-Line actually wound up reoffering these in the 90s, and then for a while before they went under. Originally using the original molds for these, so they claim, then eventually redoing them. Those are, of course, are a little bit fancier. They got, some of them I think actually have like some sounds in them or something, but they got can motors, stuff like that. They're okay. I actually own one. It's kind of nice sometimes when you're wanting to do like a real long Marx train. That way you're not straining some of these older locomotives too much sometimes, because you don't want them to last, you want to tear them up, so, yeah. Okay, the other Marx passenger set we're going to look at today is the Tales of Wells Fargo. Was originally how this was sold. Sometimes it would come with a tin plate town play set and all that. Marx was the king of play sets for a long time. Some would argue they still are, really. But, yeah, this is the William Crooks locomotive. Very nice, very beautiful, all plastic, very fragile, very hard to find in decent shape. Mine is in pretty good shape. It's been repaired a little bit here and there. Most of it's not too noticeable. These actually bring a lot more value than a lot of folks would expect, particularly for a Marx item, but they're just harder to find. Definitely not as nice as, like, say, the Lionel rendition of these with the General. But I would say definitely a very gorgeous set, and definitely one that anybody that loves tin plate or Marx should definitely have. But yeah, a lot of what makes these kind of harder to find, even as I was kind of saying with the Lionel General, which, finding those isn't like the easiest either sometimes, is when these were coming out in the late 50s, the train market was already starting to fall apart. People were interested in other things, and the big thing on movies and TV at the time were Westerns. And so Lionel and Marx and American Flyer all tried dumping on the bandwagon of offering Wild West or Western themed train sets to try to capture some of those sales again. And it didn't really work. The Wells Fargo set for Marx didn't really sell too well. It was expensive, and then they eventually pared it down to this, and then later on they offered even a more stripped down version of the Locomotive. Some of the later ones will actually say the St. Paul and Pacific on the tender instead of Wells Fargo. And they even offered a wind-up version of the Williams Crook Locomotive. It's kind of a goofy looking one, but this Locomotive, in my opinion, is kind of the pinnacle of the plastic locos from Marx. They offered a lot of plastic locomotives. I don't think any of them ever looked as nice as this one. Not even the 1829, which was a Hudson. It's an okay loco, but it just doesn't look as nice as this. They really put a lot of work into this. So we'll go ahead and run it a little bit and let you watch it in action. And here she comes. These old Marx locomotives, people call these things speed demons. This one's a really good example of it. I do not have a lot of voltage to the tracks right now, and that thing is zipping. It's just one of those things. These Marx locomotives, they are very fast little runners. They will scoot like you wouldn't believe. Yeah, that is the Williams Crook passenger set. Better come around for another run. Very beautiful set. Very beautiful.